Hey everybody, this is Parrish coming to you from a 2025 Land Cruiser. Sitting here discussing and reviewing some of the features and functions and the human-machine interface. What I'm highlighting today are a few things that I'm anticipating that Toyota will fix over time, future releases or updates or kind of generational changes. For years I've been complaining about the use of acronyms in vehicles. Bit of an engineering culture, definitely a comfort level inside companies, I think, to defining, learning, reusing over generations these different acronyms. The problem is definitely when these acronyms are put into the user interface of the vehicle, expecting the consumer to understand what they mean, what the functions are, what they stand for, and so forth. So most digital connected products, I think, over time have phased out these acronyms. In particular, in vehicles, one OEM at a time has phased them out, whether it was around lane departure warnings in Mercedes or other traction control type things, in the center console. But one by one they've kind of gone away, except for one notable exception, which I'm going to say is this 2025 Toyota 12.3-inch fully digital display. For many years I've been proclaiming the misuse of acronyms in vehicles, how it's just a point of confusion and frustration and actual avoidance for a lot of consumers. I get this feedback when we're in vehicles testing the controls and the findability and the comprehension of everything that you can do, and people will just ignore buttons and functions because they have no idea what the acronyms stand for. A reflection of an engineering culture, definitely one of speed and efficiency. Understanding them is kind of like being in a secret club or solving a puzzle, which a lot of people like, but it's not necessarily a good approach for the mass consumer product, especially while driving or in relation to driving. Most OEMs, over the years, or vehicle manufacturers have removed them from their devices, from their vehicles. For a long time, you had things like stock that had an LKA on it, or you had LWDS in Mercedes for a long time, lane warning departure systems, but the majority of those have gone away. In most cars, the acronyms that you see are KM for kilometers, or MPH, or PSI, or things that are industry standards, and not kind of made up or derived features, which is often the case, for driver assistance. So the one, notable, incredible exception here is Toyota. We're in the digital meter, or the digital cluster view. It is consumed with acronyms. So if I go into settings, you start to see the list. And actually there's a couple pages, and then there's multiple layers. So even if you go deeper in, you'll see more. Why are they here is a good question. Usually it's cultural, or it's the challenge to change it throughout an organization, or it's process centered. But for the most part, all OEMs these days are saying that we put the consumer at the center of everything we do. And honestly, using acronyms and abbreviations with somewhat minimalistic icons is not the most human-centered way of solving this problem or communicating. So yeah, high expectations for something better in the future. So also, if we think about why they're here, maybe honestly you don't think that there's anything wrong with them, because internally their culture uses them all the time. They use them in demo videos. Even the organization is structured around certain features that are described in acronyms. and functional sets. Maybe they want you to be part of this secret club, and build some sort of loyalty. Or maybe it's something to do with actually Japanese culture. In this case, Japanese culture is highly values brevity and efficiency in communication. It leads to a prevalent use of abbreviations and acronyms in the culture, particularly in informal settings or in modern media. If you're speaking in private, you don't want anybody to hear, you're discussing something sensitive, you hear a lot of acronyms. In the US, some Japanese abbreviations that we're kind of used to are, two examples are karaoke. So kara means empty and orchestra means empty orchestra. So karaoke, small group of singers. And then the other one is Pokemon, which actually is an abbreviation for pocket monsters. So when you scroll up and down, there's no identification of exactly what the feature is. There's just an image. So I see a force field. I see a half a car and another car. I see a car to the side. I know that one's probably blind spot related. Some companies are using blind spot warning, BSW. Toyota uses BSM, maybe blind spot mode. LDA, lane departure of some sort, lane departure assist. I work in the industry, so I know what these are, but that said, I have no idea what PDA is. Looks like a force field. I know of a personal digital assistant from past digital lives. This one looks like a park sensor, on and off. RCTA. I see some sort of detection in the rear. I want to say the word RICTA, but it's not a word, it's an acronym. Obviously, it's rear cross traffic alert. RCD, don't know what that is. The C actually stands for a camera now that I think about it. So it's detection in the camera. It looks like passenger detection. SCA, the ocean, obviously you have no idea. RSA, some sort of traffic sign detection, vehicle settings, meter setting. So the problem here is I may know these, I may not. I may think that I know them. I don't want to take the time while driving to figure out what they are. I don't even want to take the time in my garage or in my driveway to figure out what these are. I just want to glance at them and I want to know. If I hover over them, maybe I could actually see what they mean. The only way for me to see actually what they mean is to turn them off. So if I turn it off, on some of them I actually see the definition. On this one, I don't see the definition. But if I go up to, say, BSM, then I see blind spot monitoring is what it is. Again, just engineering, mature culture reflected, unfortunately, I think very poorly in a primary user interactive component to control so much of the vehicle right here. And then if I even go look deeper into, say, vehicle settings, press and hold, then I even see more, right? I see PBD, which has something to do with the back lid, and then I see DRCC, which I know is driving radar, but I think this is some sort of overall control of steering, acceleration, curve reduction. So you can see I can set the sensitivity of acceleration. I can set the sensitivity of curve speed reduction if this is active, in some sort of guide message. But in general, DRCC, why that is a deeper layer in vehicle settings, I don't know. In today's world, we know how to do this. We know how to find the right categorization. We know how to find the right definitions. We know how to communicate, especially via digital display, the meaning of every function, especially upon selection or hovering over it. So, I really anticipate that Toyota is going to do this better in the future. So audio overlays and just audio channels. So I'll go into this a little more deeply, but you know, when you're playing music and you're using Waze or you're using Google Maps or you're getting audio instructions, the music doesn't cut out. It doesn't sound like the music even lessens in volume. You just have competing audio, which I know was a problem 10 years ago, but I'm surprised to find it today. The app experience is interesting. I'll share some screens, but for the most part, I don't find a lot of value to it other than remote start and maybe checking the status and the location of the vehicle. It has an incredible amount of notifications, which I think are crazy, especially around the rear seat here. So if the seat's folded or if there's a baseball hat or if somebody moves from seat to seat, you know, you get all kinds of notifications. For that matter, in the vehicle itself, the rear seat notifications for seatbelt and for occupancy definitely have issues. But I did see within the settings there's a way to actually turn off rear seat notifications, which speaks to an issue that I talk about a lot, which is if you have to turn off a feature and you have a quick access to turning off something, I consider that a design failure. You know, the sensor's not working, something's not engineered correctly, the signals are not working together in unison, and so on. But you know, this stuff should work. Another thing that I anticipate that Toyota will improve over time is the experiential jump between the IVI. So, you know, if I have a route present in Google, most of the time I'm in Android Auto, but if I do go to the native Toyota IVI, you know, it just tells me that there's an Android route active. It doesn't carry over the route. It has no way of picking that up. I know that this native Toyota IVI system is going to do everything I need it to, but it doesn't have the contextual relevance of just living in the Android world and using Android Auto all the time. Not to mention, you know, the personality of Waze or a different system that I might get to use or be able to use in Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You know, I've got a little more personality, a little more playfulness, you know, obviously a slightly different map configuration and behavior and feedback. Personally, what I do like is being able to pick different agent types or digital assistants that have personalities and make comments and comment on your driving and give you tidbits and those kind of things. So that is nice. But there is no quick access, and all of this still feels like a very dramatic experiential jump as you go from one interface to the other and actually try to justify which app you should be in and which even CarPlay, Android Auto, or native IVI. This reminds me of, you know, in the mobile years when we started having multi-core processors and you could have 2 or 3 operating systems on your phone. The difference was you would plug in your phone into a device and it would launch an operating system on a different screen size or things like that. So I think this is still something that could be better resolved, and look forward to seeing where Toyota goes. Lastly, I think is boot up speed. So, you know, you've got the adjustments, you've got your phone wirelessly connected. When you start the vehicle, it's incredibly quiet. You've got the telltales that come up. There's a bit of lag here. It's slow, it's slow, it's slow. You get warning systems every single time, which I get. It welcomes me. Occasionally it works, occasionally it doesn't. I haven't moved, I haven't done anything since I just had it connected. And it's saying basically to connect with a mobile device to start Android Auto. So in this case, you saw I was wireless. When I turned it off, I turned it on, and now it doesn't recognize the phone, it's not connected, it doesn't have Android Auto access. So between the boot up speed, feeling slow and laggy, especially for an expensive contemporary vehicle, and then still the uncertainty of connectivity levels and access to CarPlay and Android Auto, especially wireless, is a problem.